Imagine a room where time stands still. A room filled with heavy furniture, smelling of beeswax and dried lavender, where the air is thick with the weight of expectation. In the corner of this room stands a beast. It is not a living creature, but a creature of wood, wire, and ivory. It is the Victorian parlor piano. To us, it is a musical instrument, but to the families of the 19th century, it was something far more potent. It was a signal. It was a billboard. It was a machine that turned a young girl's hours of boredom into a certificate of marriageability. Tonight, we sit on the velvet bench. We open the heavy lid, and we listen to the quiet, repetitive history of the instrument that defined an era. The year is 1870. The rain is tapping a gentle, irregular rhythm against the sash windows of a terrace house in London. Inside the front parlor, the fire has burned down to glowing embers, casting long, flickering shadows across the patterned carpet. The room is crowded. Victorian taste dictated that a room should be full. There are heavy drapes made of crushed velvet in a deep shade of burgundy, tasked with keeping out the drafts and the sunlight. There are small tables cluttered with china figurines, glass domes protecting wax flowers, and books that are rarely read but look impressive on the shelf. But dominating the space, commanding the room like a silent general, is the piano. It is an upright model, towering and imposing. Its case is made of rosewood, dark and rich, with a grain that swirls like oil on water. The wood has been polished until it gleams, reflecting the dim light of the gas lamps. The front of the piano is covered in fretwork, intricate carvings of vines and leaves that serve no purpose other than to say this was expensive. Candle sconces made of brass are attached to the front panel, holding white tapers that are currently unlit. When they are lit, they will cast a warm, forgiving glow on the face of whoever sits at the keys. This instrument is the heart of the home. It is the altar of the middle class. To own a piano in the mid-19th century was to declare to the world that you had arrived. It meant you had money to spare. It meant you had a parlor large enough to house it. And most importantly, it meant you had women in the house who did not need to work in factories or fields. They had the luxury of time. The piano sits in silence. It is a heavy silence. If you were to walk across the room, the floorboards might creak under the rug, but the piano remains solid, anchored by its cast iron frame. Inside that wooden casing, there are over 200 strings stretched to incredible tension, waiting for a hammer to strike. But tonight, the lid is closed. A heavy embroidered cloth, perhaps stitched by the daughter of the house, is draped over the top to protect the finish from dust. On top of the cloth sits a vase of dried pampas grass and a framed photograph of a stern-looking uncle. The piano is serving its secondary purpose, a very expensive shelf. It is strange to think that this object, so silent now, was the source of so much anxiety. For the young lady of the house, this machine was her workspace. It was here that she spent hours of her childhood, her back straight, her fingers aching, drilling scales into the air until the house resonated with the monotony of do, re, mi. The parlor itself is designed for listening, or at least for sitting. The chairs are stiff-backed, upholstered in horsehair fabric that scratches slightly against silk dresses. They are arranged in a semicircle facing the instrument. It is a theater for a very small, very polite audience. Listen to the room. The clock on the mantelpiece ticks, tick, tock, tick, tock. The rain intensifies slightly against the glass. The fire shifts, a log settling into the ash with a soft hiss. The house is settling for the night. The piano stands guard. It is a monument to respectability. It is waiting for the morning when the rituals will begin again, the polishing of the wood, the dusting of the keys, the opening of the lid. But for now, it is just furniture, beautiful, heavy, silent furniture. The ivory keys are hidden in the dark, cool and smooth, touching each other in a perfect white line. The strings are still, the dampers are down, the music is sleeping.
The morning light in the parlor is gray and unforgiving. It reveals the dust motes dancing in the air, disturbed by the arrival of the governess. Miss Eliza is 12 years old. She has not yet come out into society, but her training has already begun. She sits on the round, adjustable stool, which spins with a faint squeak if she moves too much, but she knows better than to move. Her governess, Miss Sterling, stands beside her. Miss Sterling is a woman of indeterminate age, wearing a dress of sensible gray wool. She holds a small baton, not for striking, but for keeping time. "Posture, Eliza," she says softly. Eliza straightens her back. This is the first lesson of the piano. It is not about the music, it is about the silhouette. A girl hunched over the keys looks undistinguished. A girl sitting upright with her neck long and her elbows tucked in looks like a lady. The lesson begins with scales. C major, no sharps, no flats, just white keys. Thumb, index, middle, thumb under, index, middle, ring, pinky. Up the octave, down the octave. The sound is mechanical. It does not sound like art. It sounds like a machine starting up. Plink, 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 plink. The piano is slightly out of tune. The humidity of the London summer has swollen the wood, stretching the strings. The high C has a slight wobble to it, a melancholic vibration that hangs in the air. Eliza's hands are small. Her fingers struggle to spam the octave, but she persists. She has to. In the Victorian world, accomplishments were the currency of a young woman. She learned a little French, enough to read a menu, a little watercolor painting, enough to paint a flower, and a little piano. She did not need to be a virtuoso. In fact, being too good was considered suspect. If a woman played with too much passion, too much fire, it was seen as unseemly. It suggested a lack of control. The goal was to be pleasant, to be competent, to provide a soothing background noise for the men to discuss business or politics. "Keep your wrists level," Miss Sterling murmurs. To ensure this, she places a copper penny on the back of Eliza's right hand. "Play the scale again. If the coin falls, we start over." Eliza breathes in. She focuses on her hand. She renders it stiff, lifeless, a platform for the coin. She plays. The music is rigid, devoid of feeling, but the coin stays put. "Very good," says Miss Sterling. This is the reality of the piano parlor. It was an exercise in discipline. Hours were spent practicing exercises written by composers like Czerny or Hannon. These were not songs, they were finger drills, repetitive patterns designed to strengthen the pinky finger or loosen the thumb. Da, 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 over and over again. The sound drifts out of the parlor window, joining the sounds of the street, the clip-clop of a delivery horse, the cry of the rag-and-bone man. The piano practice is the soundtrack of the suburb. Every house on the street has a girl like Eliza, and every house emits the same stumbling scales. Eliza is bored. Her mind drifts. She looks at the sheet music in front of her. It is a simplified arrangement of a popular waltz. She imagines the ballroom she has never seen. She imagines a dress that isn't made of itchy muslin. She imagines a world where she doesn't have to worry about the penny on her hand. But she keeps playing. The piano is a demanding taskmaster. The keys are heavy. The action of a Victorian piano required physical strength. You had to push the key down a significant distance to throw the hammer at the string. After an hour, her forearms ache. Her fingertips feel bruised. "Again," says Miss Sterling. Eliza sighs, a sound swallowed by the heavy curtains. She resets her hands. She checks her posture. She begins the scale again. This was the labor of love, or rather, the labor for love. The assumption was that one day a young man would see her sitting at this instrument, see her straight back and her floating hands, and decide that she would make a suitable wife. The piano was a trap, and the music was the bait. But for now, there is no suitor. There is only the gray light, the dusty room, the stern governess, and the endless, repetitive climb up and down the white ivory stairs.
Let us look inside the beast. Let us ignore the social pressure and the bored student for a moment and appreciate the object itself. The Victorian piano was a marvel of the Industrial Revolution. It was a triumph of engineering. Open the front panel, remove the music stand, peer into the dark cavern of the instrument. It smells of iron, felt, and raw wood. It smells of the factory where it was made. Perhaps it is a broadwood made in London or a Pleyel from Paris. Inside, there is a cast iron frame. This was a new invention. In the old days, pianos were made entirely of wood, but they couldn't hold the tension of the strings. They warped and cracked. The iron frame allowed the piano to be strung tighter, louder, stronger. It allowed the instrument to survive the heated interiors of modern homes. Look at the hammers, a row of wooden shanks tipped with tightly compressed sheep's wool felt. They look like a line of soldiers waiting for orders. When Eliza presses a key, a complex system of levers, the action moves. A jack pushes the hammer up. A damper lifts off the string. The hammer strikes the wire. Bang! Then the hammer instantly falls back, even if she holds the key down, to let the string vibrate. This is the escapement. It happens in a fraction of a second. It is pure physics. The bass strings are thick, wrapped in copper wire. They look like golden snakes coiled in the bottom of the case. When struck, they vibrate slowly, sending a low hum through the floorboards. The treble strings are thin, steel wire, pulled so tight they could slice a finger. They ring out sharp and clear. Every few months, a man comes to the house. He is the piano tuner. He is a quiet figure, usually dressed in a worn black coat. He carries a leather bag filled with strange tools, tuning hammers, rubber wedges, felt strips. He enters the parlor with a deferential nod. The family leaves him alone. The tuning of the piano is a private, almost surgical procedure. He opens the lid. He mutes the strings with the rubber wedges. He strikes a key. Ping! It is flat. The humidity has loosened it. He places his wrench on the tuning pin. He turns it a fraction of a millimeter. He strikes the key again. Ping! He listens. He is listening for the beats, the wavering sound that happens when two strings are slightly out of phase. He wants to eliminate the beats, or rather control them perfectly. It is a slow, meditative process. Strike, turn, listen. Strike, turn, listen. The house is filled with these isolated, non-musical sounds. It is not a melody. It is the sound of the machine being calibrated. For an hour, the tuner works his way up the keyboard, bringing order to the chaos of the strings. He imposes the equal temperament on the instrument, a mathematical compromise that allows the piano to play in any key, even if none of them are perfectly pure. When he is finished, he plays a few chords, a major triad, a dominant seventh. The sound is full, rich, and harmonious. The wobble in the high C is gone. The beast has been tamed. He packs his bag. He closes the lid. He takes his payment and leaves through the servant's entrance. The piano is ready again. It waits in the corner, a coiled spring of potential energy. It is a masterpiece of craftsmanship, hiding its complexity behind a veneer of rosewood. It is a machine made of thousands of moving parts, all designed to do one simple thing: to sing when touched. The dust settles on the lid. The iron frame cools in the evening air.
The felt hammers wait in their line, silent and soft, dreaming of the next waltz. The piano needed fuel, and that fuel was sheet music. In the mid-19th century, before radios or phonographs, if you wanted to hear a song, you had to play it, or pay someone else to play it. This created a massive industry. The printing presses of London and New York churned out millions of pages of music, specifically designed for the parlor pianist. Walk into a music shop in 1880. The smell of ink and paper is overwhelming. The walls are lined with colorful covers. This was the golden age of lithography. The cover art was often more impressive than the music inside. Beautiful illustrations of flowers, weeping willows, patriotic flags, or romantic couples gazing at the moon. The music itself was formulaic. It had to be. It had to be simple enough for an amateur like Eliza to play after a few weeks of practice, but flashy enough to sound impressive to her uncle. There were three main categories of parlor music. First, the variations. Take a simple, well-known tune, like Home Sweet Home or The Last Rose of Summer, and add lots of extra notes, rippling arpeggios, fast scales, trills. The melody stays the same, but the decoration makes it sound difficult. It was musical glitter. Second, the battle pieces. These were incredibly popular. The Battle of Prague was a staple. It was a descriptive piece. The music would mimic the sound of cannons, loud bass chords, the charge of the cavalry, fast galloping rhythms, and the cries of the wounded, dissonant falling notes. It was sound effects played by a girl in a lace dress. And third, the sentimental romance. The king of this genre was a piece called The Maiden's Prayer, La Prière d'une Vierge. Published in 1856 by a Polish composer named Tekla Banderzewska-Baronowska, it became a global phenomenon. It was the Despacito of the 19th century. Everyone played it. It was a simple, repetitive melody with a lot of hand crossing, which looked graceful, and tremolos, which sounded emotional. Serious musicians hated it. Critics called it trash, but in the parlors of the world, it reigned supreme. Eliza has a copy of the Maiden's Prayer. The pages are dog-eared and torn at the bottom. She has played it 1,000 times. Da, 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 doom, trill. She knows exactly where to slow down to look expressive. She knows exactly where to play loudly to wake up her father in the armchair. The sheet music sits on the piano's rack, a stack of paper dreams. The fairies whisper, the dying poet, moonlight on the Hudson. The titles promised emotion, drama, and exoticism. They brought the world into the quiet, stifling parlor. For a few shillings, a girl could buy a piece of music that let her pretend she was a Spanish dancer, or a soldier, or a tragic heroine pining for a lost love. It was a safe rebellion, a way to feel big emotions without ever leaving the piano stool. The paper is fragile. Over time, it turns yellow and brittle. The ink fades, but the notes remain. Black dots on 5 lines. Instructions from a stranger on how to move your fingers. Eliza turns the page. The sound of dry paper crinkling is loud in the quiet room. She smooths the page down. She places her hands on the keys. She begins to play the hit song of the decade, just like a million other girls are doing at this exact moment all across the world.
It is evening. The gas lamps are hissed into life, casting a yellow, slightly green light over the parlor. The fire is roaring now. The room is warm, perhaps a little too warm. Guests have arrived. There is the vicar, a man with bushy sideburns and a loud laugh. There is Mrs. Gable, the local gossip, and there is Mr. Thornton. Mr. Thornton is young, eligible, and currently standing by the fireplace, looking politely bored. This is the moment, the reason for the scales.
the reason for the penny on the hand. Eliza's mother claps her hands together gently. "Eliza, darling, won't you play something for us?" It is not a question. It is a command disguised as a request. Eliza blushes. It is part of the ritual. She must feign reluctance. She must be modest. "Oh, Mother, I haven't practiced." "Nonsense. Play that lovely piece by Chopin, or the new waltz." Eliza stands. Her silk dress rustles. She walks to the piano. This walk is part of the performance. She must move gracefully. She sits on the stool. She takes a moment to arrange her skirts so they drape perfectly over the floor. She adjusts the music stand, even though she doesn't need to. She takes off her gloves. She places them on the side of the piano. The exposure of her bare hands is intimate, yet acceptable. The room goes quiet. The vicar stops talking about the parish roof. Mr. Thornton turns to look. Eliza places her hands on the keys. She pauses. She breathes. She begins. She does not play Chopin. That is too difficult, too risky. She plays A Song Without Words by Mendelssohn. It is safe. It is melodic. It is gentle. The music floats out into the warm air. It mixes with the smell of coal smoke and cologne. Flowing arpeggios in the left hand, a singing melody in the right. Eliza is nervous. Her heart is hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. Her fingers feel slippery. She misses a note in the second bar. A C sharp becomes a C natural, a discord. She winces internally, but she keeps going. The audience does not care about the wrong note. They are not listening to the music, really. They are watching her. Mr. Thornton watches her back. It is straight. Good. He watches her elbows. They are tucked in. Good. He watches her face. It is composed, serious, but pleasant. Good. He is not looking for a concert pianist. He is looking for a wife who can follow instructions, who has discipline, and who can add a layer of refinement to his domestic life. The piano is a test of character. Eliza reaches the difficult section, the crescendo. She leans forward slightly. She presses harder. The piano responds, the sound swelling, filling the cluttered room. For a moment, Eliza forgets Mr. Thornton. She forgets her mother. She feels the vibration of the strings in her fingertips. She feels the power of the sound. She is making this. She is in control. Then, the final chord. She holds it. She lifts her hands elegantly from the keys, letting them float in the air for a second before dropping them to her lap. Silence. Then applause. Polite, gloved applause. "Charming," says the vicar. "Delightful," says Mrs. Gable. "Very nice," says Mr. Thornton. Eliza smiles, a practiced, modest smile. She picks up her gloves. She stands. The ordeal is over. She has passed the test. The piano has done its job. The conversation resumes. The tea is poured. The piano sits in the corner, its strings still vibrating faintly, unheard beneath the chatter of the humans. Time passes. The rain continues to fall on London, but the years are slipping away. Eliza is married now. She is Mrs. Thornton. She lives in a different house with different curtains, but a very similar piano. But things have changed. Before marriage, she practiced 2 hours a day. Now she has a household to run. She has servants to manage, menus to plan, children to raise. The piano is played less and less. "I simply don't have the time," she tells her friends. The piano begins to age. The rosewood case, once shiny and new, begins to fade where the sun hits it. The ivory keys, once bright white, start to yellow. They develop tiny hairline cracks, like the wrinkles on an old face. The felt on the hammers hardens. The sound becomes a little brighter, a little harsher. The tuning slips. The high C wobbles again, but no tuner is called. The piano begins to change its function. It stops being an instrument and starts being a display surface. First, a lace runner is placed along the top. Then photographs, sepia-toned portraits of children in stiff collars, a wedding photo, a picture of a dog that died years ago. Then other objects, a stack of hymnals, a sewing basket, a lamp with a fringed shade. The piano is slowly being buried. It is becoming a ghost in the corner of the room. Occasionally, on a Sunday evening, Eliza might sit down. She opens the lid, pushing aside the sewing basket. Her fingers are stiffer now. Her knuckles are a little swollen. She tries to play the Maiden's Prayer. Her muscle memory is fading. She stumbles. She forgets the bridge section. She stops. She closes the lid. "I'm out of practice," she whispers to the empty room. The sheet music in the stool is crumbling. The pages of the Battle of Prague are dusty. The fairies' whisper is silent. A new generation is rising. They have gramophones now, machines that play music perfectly without any effort. You don't need to practice scales. You just wind a handle and put a needle on a disc. The parlor piano is becoming a relic, a symbol of a bygone era of discipline and courtship. It stands in the corner, a heavy, silent witness to the passage of time. It holds the memories of the nervous girl, the stern governess, and the polite applause of the suitor. It holds the echo of thousands of hours of do-re-mi. But now it is mostly silent, a mahogany coffin for dead melodies.
It is night again. Decades have passed. The house is old. The floorboards have settled. The curtains are drawn tight. The parlor is dark, lit only by the embers of the fire and the faint glow of a street lamp filtering through the heavy drapes. The piano is still there. It is very old now. It is an antique. The silence in the room is absolute. It is a thick, blanketed silence. Dust motes drift in the air, settling slowly, gently, onto the polished wood of the piano lid. Softly, softly. The house is asleep. The people are asleep. The piano sleeps too. Its iron frame is cold and still. Its strings are relaxed. The tension is gone. The keys rest in their bed of felt. There is no more pressure, no more scales, no more exams, no more pennies on hands. There is only rest. Imagine the sound of the rain stopping. The dripping from the eaves slows down. Drip, drip, drip. The fire dies out. The last ember turns from red to gray. The shadows lengthen and merge into total darkness. The piano is a dark shape in the corner, a friendly shadow. It has told its story. It has done its work. The vibrations have faded into the walls, into the furniture, into the history of the house. Everything is still. Everything is heavy. Everything is quiet. Close the lid of your mind. Cover the keys. Blow out the candle. The concert is over. The audience has gone home. The parlor is empty. Deep, heavy silence. Peaceful darkness. Drift away. Sleep now.